Island Running, orchestral manoeuvres in the dark from their new album called Dazzle Ships. It's the first album from the band since the autumn of 1981. Quite a long break for anybody, I reckon. Well, earlier this week I met up with Andy and Paul of OMD and asked them why it had taken nearly 18 months to record Dazzle Ships. Andy?
For various reasons, it took us a long time, perhaps longer than usual, but it just takes us a hell of a long time to write enough songs to put on a piece of vinyl. We had, various problems, but we always have self-induced problems. Basically, it just takes us a long time to write enough songs that we like enough to put on a record.
I must admit, having spoken to you quite a bit during the year and a bit that this album has taken to get together, you seem to be suffering great stress, either as a partnership or personally during that time. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, we had sort of various personal problems really too.
No, we weren't. No, it was a lie. We were just on holiday for 9 months.
Yeah, that's what it was.
We couldn't be bothered. We were so rich with the success of the last LP. We just thought, why should we bother?
We count the pennies.
We were so busy counting on money, Richard.
I mean, at one time you sort of disappeared to study the stars, didn't you, and things like that.
Well, it's rather hard to study them in sunny Liverpool. You can never get above the clouds.
Was there a feeling of stress because of the success of the previous LP?
No, not so much the success, I don't think. It was just, you know what we're like. You've known us long enough to know. We're never sure. We could sell 39 million records tomorrow and it still wouldn't convince us that the song was any good. We've always been, what's the word?
Soul-searching or something.
Stupid, I think, is the word.
You're in a very funny mood today, actually, both of you. It's really
we're very funny chaps, Look, I'm not even wearing a tie today.
Look, I've even dared to let my neck button open.
It's quite astounding. I'm sure anybody listening, I'm sure anybody, age, that's what it is. Anybody who thinks these lads are always like this, it's not true at all. You're quite normal, serious fellows most of the time, aren't you?
We're being normal and serious right now. We're just smiling.
Architecture and Morality is an album, then, that you think, I gather from one interview I've read, was undervalued by a lot of people who bought it. Now, that was an interview in Smash Hits by my old mate Mark Ellen.
Mm-hmm. Not so much by the people who bought it. I think that we, for whatever reasons, we ended up feeling that it didn't get the respect it deserved, Richard. I don't know, we just put a lot of effort into it, and we really loved it, and we felt that... And you know what we're like. We worry at the best of times. So anything that undermines our own sort of unstable balance creates a problem for us.
Leads to a whole new sort of re-evaluation of what you're doing.
Which is, I think some of those sort of worries about what we did on Architecture and Morality have forced us into new areas on this. Some things I'm glad we moved, and some things perhaps, we might change our mind as we go on. Although I think the album as a whole is quite exciting.
Paul, it's a much more experimental LP, isn't it?
We have done some unusual things, but I think basically it's pop music. I think we have done some slightly, maybe oddball things, but I think once you get used to the fact that they're a little strange, and you actually get used to them in themselves, I think you don't sort of hear that, oh, that's weird. You hear that it fits in with the piece of music.
At what stage did the concept, that's a terrible word, but anyway, the notion for what you're doing, man, at what stage did the idea for this thing really gel in your own brains?
Sometime last week, wasn't it?
Rotten devil.
It's really, the album is a collection of ideas which grew up as the whole of last year progressed, and even whilst we were recording and mixing in January this year. We were a little worried that perhaps, that there was too much diversity on it, that there were what would appear to be very, OMD pop songs, that what would appear to be Architecture and Morality type, choral, sort of super over-the-top pretentious stuff. And there was all these other weird, in inverted commas, stuff that was radios and televisions and speaking clocks. And perhaps, we originally thought, this isn't going to stick together, it's going to be a real hodgepodge. And we had a lot of difficulty putting it together. And I think ultimately it only seemed to gel together as an album in the studio when, after a lot of, trial runs and moving things around, we got a sort of running order. I think the original idea was perhaps we should put sort of the easy things on one side and the harder things on the other, but China Crisis did that with their albums.
It works. Shall we have those talking clocks? I think that's a very interesting track.
Yeah.
This is a thing called time zones, but don't set your watch by it. That's the main thing. Time zones, orchestral manoeuvres in the dark, from their new LP, which they call Dazzle Ships. That is one example of the other side, the more exploratory side of the LP.
No, it's not experimental or exploratory. It's pop music.
It's all pop music.
It's all pop music. It's nice to listen to, and it could be popular. Therefore, it's pop music. As far as I'm concerned, anyway.
I remember at one stage during the last year, and we talked quite a lot during this year, actually, off and on, didn't we? But you were very excited about getting this emulator gadget, the emulator synthesizer.
That's very important.
Paul, explain a bit about what the emulator is. I mean, it lives up to its name, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, precisely. It emulates other sounds. It's like a digital tape recorder. So you can put sort of one note in of anything, and it'll split it over 2 octaves, so you can play it musically.
So musical Richard Skinners or musical dogs barking.
You can have absolutely anything. You know, you can have make chords of farting on it if you want. I'm sure it would sound really good.
Was this an important purchase?
Yeah.
Along with the beans.
What a weird mood you are in today. Back to the emulator. Good purchase?
Essential. I think essential for our development.
Why?
It opened up a lot of doors. It opened up a lot of exciting doors to us, which, we were more than happy to pursue because it offered some really interesting alternatives for ways of creating songs to give different feelings and sort of present different ideas. There's no point in having an emulator or a shortwave radio, which was our other sort of fun instrument of the year, and being, I don't know, experimental for its own sake, which I think is what a lot of people are going to think some of the tracks are on this album, just like, oh, great idea, don't like the sound of it. But we really tried. We spent a long time throwing out things that were just like, okay, nice idea, but it doesn't sound very good to listen to. And we tried to keep in just the things that were good to listen to. It's all pop music as far as we're concerned. And the emulator has allowed us, it's given us the freedom to take things from any source, TV, radio, speaking people. We even got Paul's wife on it, everything, put the kitchen sink in the emulator. And you can start to make songs and make sounds out of things that are not conventional instruments, and that's really exciting, because then you start to just open up so many possibilities, which you couldn't have if you just had a little Roland or a guitar,
In the assembly of all this stuff, was Rhett Davis as a producer very important as a sort of outside ear or something to push
I think when we were actually looking for a producer, we were a little less sure about what we were doing than when we actually got in to do the album.
Yes. It was quite a major step just to look for a producer to start with, wasn't it, really, for you?
Well, you, in fact, were with us earlier on in the year when we attempted one of the songs, Telegraph, as a single, and we felt then, as Paul said, at the early stage, we had some of these songs which were half great ideas and half a load of rubbish, and we needed somebody to help us to get rid of the rubbish. But
I think that was great then. He was really fun to work with, and he created a really nice atmosphere in the studio, which you could just relax. And we were actually trusting him. We just go out of the control room and let him mix something, which we've hardly ever done with anybody before.
We still come back in and make him change it again.
Shall we hear what he did for Telegraph, which admittedly has been recorded about 6 times by him before this album. This one has been described as a sort of a superb potential single, and I suspect it is exactly that. Anyway, gentlemen, clear up questions, throw them away. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Cheers. Lads. That one's called Telegraph. I look forward to that being a single in the near future, as we say. Let's rock on at about 5 to 6, actually, nearly 4 minutes to 6.